Mets were doing an epic walk-off when we were finishing that episode. They won. They won the game in the last inning.
Oh.
They were losing 3-2, and then they scored 2 runs.
So I thought you'd be a really good guest as soon as we were like planning this day yesterday. I was like, "Are you in town?" And you know, Yousef's got a fucking crazy story, and he's really humble about it. But I feel like you should be on like Dr. Phil and shit with your story. But it's all about I guess in your situation, your direct admin for your agency was not bad. It was the state and the state agencies in the courts and the judicial process, and then obviously the cultural demands for your head on a platter when the whole story hadn't even remotely broke.
Yeah.
So give us a rundown, if you can, like a spark notes of what happened, cliff notes.
Yeah, it was just 2016. It kind of was the height of all the anti-police movement was kind of brewing.
Oh yeah,
it was a big push for it. So people were in the streets actively burning stuff in different states. And I'm off duty. I worked the night before, and the next day, it's Father's Day, and I get into a encounter on the road with 2 guys in a car, which it was a road rage on their side. And there's more to it later on that comes out that proves it was more that was on their side. Anyways, yeah, there's a road rage encounter that goes on, and about 4.5 miles later, we encounter each other outside the car and end up defending myself, and one of the guys ends up dying right there in the road. That broke all over the news, of course, and the media hype was up. You know, white officer kills unarmed black man, and the sheriff's office.
Because you got to think it grew traction right there because you were a cop. If you weren't a cop, the community, the liberal left would have been like, it's a little too dicey because of his criminal history. We're not going to make this a thing. Mm-hmm. And a white guy could have killed a black criminal and nothing would happen. But it added that spice to it because you were a cop.
Yeah.
And I love how your skin complexion's white, but based on their narrative, you could be a Muslim. Yeah. You know, if you were on the other side of it, white cop, if I shot you, it's not white on white. It's white guy kills Muslim in a hate crime.
Correct. Yeah. And it's a good point. The thing about it is there was just so much. It was difficult to see later on going through trial. And I know I'm skipping a little bit, but to see how much the state worked with FDLE worked so hard to the point that they interviewed the entire family of the other side. Mind you, there's a driver and a passenger. Passenger's dead, black male, Hispanic, Puerto Rican driver. They're related because the black male has children with the driver's sister. But they interviewed 2 of these families completely, like the black male's family, the mother, the sisters. They interview them. They do this entire FDLE interviews with all of them. They interview the Hispanic male side, and they interviewed nobody on my side.
I'm wondering why they're even interviewing fucking your family.
So there was speculation from the very start, a rumor going around. My attorney told me, hey, they think that you shot him because there's rumor he was sleeping with your ex-wife. And I was like, I've never seen the guy. I don't even know him. You know? But let me tell you something. The scary part is FDLE believed this. That's the scary part. When
they're not real cops.
You see what I'm saying? So you have a state agency, and you're telling me I'm in jail. They were trying to build a motive for murder, which I was already charged with murder.
Well, let's first off, if you haven't heard the story, it's episode 59,
I think.
Go to Antihero Podcast and go to episode Not Guilty. The whole story and all details is laid out. It's fucking crazy. But at this point in what you're talking about right now, have you been arrested?
Yes, I was arrested. I said in one episode, I think I said 3 days or 6 days. I can't even remember now, but it was a couple days later. I got arrested. And
tell them how that happened. Dirty.
So I'm speaking to my attorney, and I do an interview with FDLE. I think a couple days later, I did an interview with FDLE, and the agent sat across from me on a table, and they asked me what happened. I start giving them a full breakdown, and then the interview turned into an interrogation where we started arguing with each other, me and the agents. And the agents were telling me, that's not what happened. No, why would you not pick up your phone and call 911 when he's following you? I was like, well, I didn't know he's going to follow me that far. I didn't realize it till after. Well, what do you mean he tried to describe again? Draw on a piece of paper how he was trying to block your car. Well, like this. Well, you couldn't just go around him and go faster. I did, and he came after me. Yeah. Well, how? I mean, he drives an old. I'm
getting pissed now. Just listen. I'd be like, listen, motherfucker, shut the fuck up. I don't got to do shit.
Well, here's the interesting thing. After they don't put any fucking effort into criminals that kill each other. This is a narrative. This is a narrative from the rip.
You were a narrative, yeah.
You are a narrative because we have slam dunk fucking cases of black on black, Hispanic on Hispanic, white on white, fucking rifles to little kids that catching strays. They put zero effort into those fucking cases, get a no pros, and the dude's back on the street in 3 weeks. But here you are as a cop. That's the only reason you're getting treated like that.
But let me tell you this also.
Only reason.
We all know that this is common in law enforcement. I talk about this before in Brevard County where I was arrested. The state attorney's office is notorious for not prosecuting shoplifting if there's no video.
I've worked with them.
A guy who walks out the store, they say, is there video? No. Well, we're not going to prosecute.
Nope.
But let me tell you, when you have a state agency investigating me for killing a guy on the road, as they claim, and we passed 100 houses documented on the record, you don't have one Ring camera, one doorbell camera, one tree camera. They're everywhere nowadays, right? They're on churches. They didn't get one video camera. Why? Because they want to put enough effort into making a narrative, but they're really afraid of finding out the truth and killing their opportunity to get an attaboy.
Somebody at some point said that cop needs to go to jail. He's a murderer. Well, make it happen.
Well, let me tell you this also. It makes sense. The sheriff Wayne Ivey of Brevard County used to be an FDLE
lead
agent.
I worked with him when he was a lead agent.
There was rumor that there's beef between the agents that are there now and him. That's what I was getting from sidelines going, hey, these guys are really going at it with your sheriff.
Personal animosity.
They're trying to go at your sheriff, and they're trying to come after you because
you're a pawn in
you're the one in this now, and they're making him look bad as well in the process, saying we arrested a deputy. So that's the crazy part is the politics that plays outside of it.
But nobody ever dug that side. That side of the story died.
No, it died.
Of course it did.
FDLE was
Those
quick.
pieces of fucking shit are still working, still fucking doing this shit to people, but that narrative just disappears.
Well, the same agent, his name is Ryan Bliss. I'm not afraid to talk about him. His name is Ryan Bliss. He arrested a Melbourne cop by the name of Frank Carter years before me. Frank Carter was well known in the hood look it up. Well known in the hood. He used to buy, let's say this, he used to buy black kids school stuff for school before they go to school. He used to date black women, and I hope you don't get mad of me bringing this up about him, but it's true. He used to date black women. He was well known in the community. He's a white cop. When FDLE went after him, supervisors were reviewing dash cam videos, looking for stuff, and he had like there was some sort of beef with a female that he used to date that complained that he had off-duty apartment. He would sleep in there on duty and stuff. So the supervisor started watching his camera, looking for this apartment thing. And the supervisor says, "Oh, I've seen violations of him stopping black guys for no reason." Right? He's saying he ran a stop sign. So they start pulling up his videos, and then they call him in on it, and they bring FDLE in to do a corruption investigation. Well, the same agent Ryan Bliss gets warrants signed on this cop and arrests him, and they get ready to go. They run him through the ringer. He had black guys in the hood coming to his defense saying, you guys got the wrong guy. Yeah. This guy stopped me for fucking clear violation and let me go. This is wrong. I mean, guys were coming out like known felons.
That's cool. Yeah. That they're respecting the other side so much to be like, there's tons of fucking crooked cops out there, shitty cops that you could go after, and you're going to go after the fucking one guy that plays a straight and narrow.
And they ruined this guy's life, and they ended up, I think the case got dismissed, and a federal judge scolded this FDLE agent. And for what he said, he made a comment in his one of his reports about that officer, and he made a comment in his report to somebody that he was doing God's work. You know, he was doing God's work.
Small dick energy, man.
But you think about it, man. These are guys that are really focused on building a career and getting an attaboy award because what else can you do? It's like the lotto, but it's the Powerball. When you get an arrest, but it's a cop.
But when you have a sick mentality like that,
because most cops that would be the worst arrest ever.
I remember investigating any cop for anything. It's if you feel terrible. But that motherfucker is getting off on it, and that's a problem. That's a problem. And there's nobody. That's my complaint. That nobody's policing the police.
That's the humpback.
Nobody's policing the police. Yeah. Who goes and reviews Ryan Bliss? Correct. Who checks his fucking cases? Who's making sure he doesn't do that commonly? Nobody's fucking doing that. That's what gets scary when you start getting above them state agencies, federal agencies. It gets real scary in there.
I'm not a fan of, and maybe people disagree with me. I'm not a fan of like the specialty units that get TDY to FDLE and federal agencies. I'm not a fan of those guys because all they are spies and pawns in the agency. No, I'm serious. All they do is they lie on other officers. And
really?
Yeah.
So if you're on a task force, Are you talking about task force?
I'm okay with like U.S. Marshals Task Force and stuff.
That's the only one I'm okay with. I was on all of them.
Because there's
I've been on DA.
or...
I've been on DA, and I was Marshals. The DA is one of the biggest corrupt jokes to ever walk this fucking planet.
Yep.
I don't care. Absolutely.
I
haven't done my episode on this yet, but I was investigated by the federal government.
I was too.
2012, 13,
Man,
14.
Yeah.
No, listen to me. Let me tell you something. It takes nothing for somebody to call a federal agency.
I actually found out recently the reason I believe it was me is I actually had 2 crooked cops that worked at my agency. And I think now that I have time to look back from 10, 12 years ago, I was actually closing in on exposing them. And all of a sudden, I'm under investigation for some fucking... What's the old saying? You can indict a ham sandwich. So I was investigated by the federal government. Never indicted, never charges. I can't find a report on it. But they claim that I was some crooked cop. And I got close to the... I'm not going to say their names yet, but I know who they were. And I know that they went and told informants shit. They tipped drug dealers off. And I think I was getting close to them. So they're like, hey, let's get this small-time dude out of here. Let's investigate him for something. Are you
going to say their name?
Oh, I am. I'm going to do a whole episode on it.
Are you going to wait till they're retired?
They're retired. And one of them tried to follow me the other day on fucking social media, and I was like, "This fucking piece of shit." But it's coming one day, and I'm gonna save that one.
Well, it's the thing about it is they'll paint a narrative about you, and that's what I'm saying. When these task force come in, they actually work with your agency.
They're crooks.
They all work together, and this is the worst part. So when you talk about privacy and violations, these guys are privy to your personal life, right? They're in your cell phones, they're in your messages, they're in your personal galleries. They're in all this stuff, and these are guys you work with that are on these task force. They get to violate your rights. They get to violate your privacy, right?
Everybody's
But I'm just talking about in terms of the inside.
Yes.
These guys will sit right next to you at a briefing table, and their life is hidden, and their dirty laundry is hidden. But they're doing everything about you, so they're talking about you.
Yep.
They're sharing shit about you. They have this preconceived notion already that you're filthy and dirty because they're able to violate your rights. And then they have nothing. They don't even have enough to indict you. I've never been indicted. I've been under federal investigation at least 4 times. And how do I know I got
the same thing? For the same instance?
Yeah, I've been under investigation for I was by the anti-corruption unit with the FBI for years, and I got the public records, and they had officers' names blocked, and there said that. So for example, I was reading the report saying on this date, Agent so and so with the Palm Bay Police Department, that's where I work, but they blocked out the name, told us that Hafsa was injured during a vehicle pursuit. Hafsa went to the hospital, and he was prescribed medication. The agent told us they'll let us know what type of medication it is when they find out. That's how that literally to that. And then there was another report that said on this date, so and so, another officer's name was blocked, contacted us to tell us that Hafsa is going to be applying for the canine unit. Hafsa told him that he's now looking for a house because he has to have a house with a fence in order to have the canine unit. So-and-so is going to advise us what the address is as soon as Hafsa lets him know and whether or not Hafsa gets the canine position. And they've notified the agency that Hafsa's putting in for canine. These are reports I was watching. And when you look at that, it's so upsetting to see that and to think I serve with people who are rats.
Yeah, I read the documents.
Who are dirty.
Too.
Now, if I'm dirty, you should take me off the street. You shouldn't even have me running David and all that, right?
I never even got an IA. I was investigated by the federal government, and no IA was even started on me.
Thank you. Same here.
No IA was even started.
So I had a polygraph by the FBI under this, and I didn't know at the time. I didn't know I was under investigation. They said, hey, we won't. So this is what happens, right? It's going to be a little deep. So I'm working that night, and they tell me, hey, you got a drug test. Right? You've been randomly selected for a drug test. So I'm like, okay. I get up, and they're like, you got to piss in the cup now. Okay. I get up. They have like a nurse practitioner, somebody who's there with a cup, and they follow me to the bathroom. I'm in uniform. Piss in a cup. They dip the stick in there. There's a lieutenant watching, and they sign it, and I go, did I pass? Sarcastically. And she's like, yeah. I was like, yay, good job, And I sign it. 6 months later, they tell me it's random. 6 months later, I get served again in briefing in front of everyone. You have another drug test. I go, that's crazy. Fucking 2 back to back. I never had this happen.
Random.
Hold on.
Random. So 6 months later, they tell me that, you've been selected again for a drug test. So I'm like, damn, that's crazy. So I piss in a cup again, and I pass.
Are you at this point thinking there's something going on, or are you just like, fuck it?
No, man. I wasn't doing anything, so I didn't give a shit, honestly. I was like, whatever. Fuck it. I'll piss in a cup all day. So I piss in a cup, and I know for a fact, I'm sitting there like, damn, I know there's 2 officers on my squad that I know are like questionable, like, kind of strange to me that this person should be pissing in a cup. But So I think it was about 6 to 8 months later. Again, I get notified again that I have to piss in a cup again. So I do it, and I'm like, man, is something going on, So I piss in a cup and I pass. Then they tell me one night, hey guys, the chief is here, and he brought in his friend from the FBI. He's an agent, and he wants to ride with somebody who's active and who's proactive.
Let me guess.
So, Hofstra, we're going to put him with you because you're the guy that can show him. I'm like, fuck yeah, So I take the agent.
But we're so naive at that point that we think it's like it's an
attaboy. Well, you don't think that your brotherhood would be out to get you. That's not.
This is the thing. I'm really not living the life they think I'm living. I'm broke.
I was too.
I'm a cop.
It's so funny.
My life was dedicated to this job.
This story mirrors mine.
I was dedicated to my job that I wanted to do everything to show them.
Put bad guys in fucking jail.
I'm the best guy that you want. You want to see a good time? Come with me, right?
Yep.
So he comes with me. We go out and we're riding, and he's questioning me, talking to me about my life, and we're talking, and I'm just like, fuck yeah, man, I got an FBI agent here. Maybe I can move up, and show him what I got, right? So I do my whole thing. 2-3 days later, I think he realizes this guy is baited, like he's really excited about the FBI. They call me and they go, hey, we got a job opportunity for you. We want you to come. We want to talk to you. We got something that we might
be
able
FBI?
Yeah, in Melbourne and Brevard. We want to talk to you about an opportunity since you speak Arabic and blah, blah, blah. But we think you're a great candidate. So I go, hell yeah. So I get a haircut and I get a suit and I put my fucking suit on, right? And I got my resume and shit like that. And I'm telling my wife, hey, at the time, hey, this might better our life.
I'm going to go to the feds. I'm moving up.
Yeah, we're moving on. And this is the opportunity. I speak Arabic. There's no other
You go into work. Fuck you.
Yeah. So I go in there and I walk into the FBI thing. They tell me, put your gun up. And I put it up. It's in Melbourne, up there in Melbourne area. So I go inside and I sit down at this long table. They start, tell us about your life. And there's 6 agents in there. I'm talking about my whole life from growing up as a kid and high school and, my whole life growing up as a kid, high school. My dad retired from Disney, 44 years. My mom, my dad, blah, blah, blah. So, okay, cool. Tell us about this, tell us about that. I give them a full interview and everything is done. And they're like, it starts to go from like a random interview to like now they're like really pressing me on my life, Well, who's this guy? Well, who's that guy? Who's this guy? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know who that guy is. Like some guy randomly. Well, how do you know him? Oh, he knows like my mom's cousin's cousin. I don't know. I've seen him once or twice. They keep divulging into that more and more and more about people that I have no fucking business with,
Yeah.
Then they say, hey man, we'd like to give you a polygraph if, based on the questions we had. They actually had accusations that I was trafficking cocaine as a police officer.
Awesome.
Trafficking cocaine.
Awesome.
And you're still sitting here thinking, so there's no job?
Yeah, like what?
Right. I'm like, oh shit.
Where's the application?
So I literally, I'm like, so we get into that interview
because you need to lawyer up at this point. So you need to have an attorney with you.
Listen, man, when I tell you now what I know, I'm so confident.
You're not.
I'm not doing anything.
Yeah.
Bro, bring it.
The last thing you're going to think of is
an
attorney.
You want a poly? Bring it. Let's do it.
Yeah.
So they scheduled me for a polygraph a couple days later. And I go out there and I'm like, I don't know if I should tell my wife this. Like at the time, she's very like wanting to fight everybody every time, defensive. And I'm like, she's like, how'd it go? I was like, oh, it went good. Like I'm going to have a follow-up coming soon. So I show up to the polygraph. They bring an examiner from Miami. He shows up.
At this point, have they told you what they're accusing you of or investigating you for?
Drug trafficking.
So they told you that?
They told me there's accusation.
Okay.
They're like, this guy ain't even going to bring a lawyer.
Yeah. No.
Not only did he say yes to a poly, he's not even going to lawyer up.
No, I didn't even lawyer up, nothing. So they're like, yeah, this is great, So I was like, all right. So I show up and they bring this investigator in, sits down. He starts asking me pre-questions. One of the questions he asked me is, have you ever cheated on your wife? And I said, yes. And he starts asking me with who, how many times. And I explained it. I'm like, this is kind of hard to answer, but, it's the truth, man. Like, you're asking me, it's the truth. We had some difficulty in our life. I made some bad decisions. So he used that question later on, and I'll get to that point. As he does the polygraph, he's asking me about drug trafficking. He's asking me about pills. He's asking me about my addictions. And I'm like, I have none of the above. Like, I haven't even missed a day of work. It's kind of hard to be addicted to shit.
Yeah.
Work, right? And you're working 20 hours a day. So anyways, that happens, and then he pulls his chair up to me, and he gets his legs between my legs, and he sticks his arm on my back.
The old read technique.
And he goes, hey, brother, I'm here for you, man. I want you to know that. And I said, what's up? He goes, I know you're scared. I said, scared about what? He goes, I know you're scared. I said, what am I scared of? He goes, tell me about your drug addiction. And I said, you got to be kidding me, dude. He goes, no, tell me about it. You blew the poly. I said, what did I fail it on? Tell me. He goes, tell me about your drug addiction. I said, I don't have a fucking drug addiction, dude. Don't disrespect me like that. I don't have a drug addiction. What the fuck are you talking about?
Unbelievable.
We're literally talking like that. He goes, well, if you don't have a drug addiction, why did you? I was like, I didn't fail nothing. I'm telling you, I didn't. He goes, well, do you sell drugs? I said, no, I don't sell drugs. You guys see my bank account? You guys are the FBI. You know everything. You can find Osama bin Laden hiding in a hole or whatever it is. You guys know everything about me. You knew about me before you got here.
Yeah, before
you got here, right?
Yeah.
He goes, well, if you don't sell drugs, you know somebody who does? I said, no. I don't know people who does. I arrest people.
You got to give me something, man.
Yeah. I arrest people all the time who do. I don't know. He goes, well, you know people, anybody in your family? I said, no, nobody in my family sells drugs. And if they do, I don't know about it. Everybody has a large family. Many cops have criminals in their family. Yeah. It has nothing to do with me. But why are you interviewing me today? And he keeps going on and on about how he knows I'm lying and this. And so we start arguing with each other. And, you know, he tells me, he says, you know what? You're a piece of shit. Because I called him a piece of shit. We start arguing to the point where I was like, does this room have cameras in it? I got to get this video. He goes, no, there's no camera. I said, oh, that's why you're disrespecting me. He goes, yeah, you're a piece of shit. I was like, you're a fucking piece of shit. The FBI agent, swear to God. True fucking story. He says, you're a fucking piece of shit because only a person who fucking cheats on their wife and lies to her will lie to the police. I said, that's a good fucking comeback. But I'm not lying to you because you're a fucking retard. Yeah. You clearly don't know the difference between someone who's a criminal and isn't. And I said, you know what? You're the FBI. If you had anything on me, you would have had it already.
You would have been sitting at a, what do they call that? Where you give the statement before you get sentenced. They would have arrested you. Yeah. Proffer statement. You'd have been given a proffer begging for forgiveness because they would have arrested you, indicted you, not giving you a polygraph. Yeah. And then you'd be sitting there looking at 2 to fucking 50 years, and you would have confessed to everything in a proffer meeting. So if they had anything on you, that's how it would have went. He's full of shit.
So the agent who set this whole thing up, that was my friend in the beginning. He walks in because we're going at it. We're going at it to the point where he's calling me.
Just the dude that rode with you in the car walks in.
So now the guy who's interviewing me is calling me every name in the book.
Tough guy.
We're literally talking. Yeah. He's calling me a fucking bitch and everything, and I'm like, fuck you, you're a bitch. Take this shit off of me, right? So we're going at it, and I'm like, this is crazy to me that this is the FBI. Yeah. And you're talking to me like this. You're treating me this way. What the fuck did I do to you, bro? You want to get me on something so bad that it's irritating you. And you think I'm a scumbag for whatever reason you think, but you're not able to prove it. You're not able to prove this nonsense that I traffic fucking drugs, right? So the agent comes in. He separates us. I take all the shit off. And I said, next time you come to talk to me, you better have a fucking warrant for my arrest. And you know what he said? He looked at me. He said, oh, we will.
Good.
We will. So when I get into my police shooting years later, 2-3 years later, I see on the public records request that the FBI was involved.
Oh, they want.
So when I talk to my attorney about it, he knows about it. He says to me, something is wrong in this case. There's some sort of power or somebody that is holding on to this case that has manipulated the state attorney's office to believe you did this. And they're not letting it go because the evidence kept coming out that this was a fucked up case and that beyond a reasonable doubt wasn't there. Like you can see there was a lot of doubt, a lot of issues, but the state was not letting it go.
The federal government is so entitled and they're so above the law. The mere fact that you weren't doing what they thought you did drove them to target you the rest of your life until they found. I will tell you that not 6 months ago, a dude that went to federal prison, got out, was on probation, called me and said when he went to his first probation meeting, this is 13 years later, one of the first questions they asked him about was me. The DA asked him, what about Dilks? Mm-hmm. They're still holding on to this fucking fantasy land. Yeah. The fact that you weren't doing, and they probably jerked their dick to somebody all the way to Washington, that you were a crooked cop, they were going to get promoted, they were going to run a wire on you.
And let me say this for anybody watching. I have receipts. I got the public records request. I got the papers. So when I look at it now, it says in there all the stuff they were doing, and it's dated almost 3 years that I was under federal investigation. Yep. And what they did is they took an article to get the United States Attorney's Office. I guess that's who they work under. Yep. So they're proving their case to the United States Attorney's Office, saying they put an article in there on 2 Broward County deputies who used to be lookouts on the highway for drug traffickers. They would follow them, and they would be the lookout, and they would be providing them intel on officers in the area, troopers. So they used that article, and they said 2 Broward deputies to say basically accusations that they got on me, but they had anonymous info. I couldn't see who the reporters were that were lying on me. Yeah. They had anonymous info that I was involved in a drug trafficking ring of cocaine. Mind you, this is a big ring, right?
I wouldn't be surprised if somebody you worked with was involved, and you got pushed into it.
So listen to this. I'm reading the reports, and it says they provided that, and then the U.S. State Attorney's Office authorized a pen warrant on me. Yep. They authorized surveillance. So it actually goes in there. They said they got an indictment. Yep. They got an indictment by the U.S. Attorney's Office and grand jury to start doing surveillance on me. like actual surveillance.
This mimics my story, dude. This is great.
So I'm reading the report,
This
and
is
it's saying
great.
they're doing surveillance on me. 2.5 years. I got the receipts for anybody who calls me a liar. 2.5 years. It says on there that they finally get updates to the state. They're providing updates every time I fucking breathe. Someone in my agency, there's a circle of them because there's multiple names that are blocked out.
Mm-hmm.
Providing info to the FBI about everything I'm doing, how I'm moving, right? So because I got in a vehicle pursuit and I pulled my hernia, we're ripping the guy out the side of the car when it flipped and it was on fire. So we're ripping him out, and I pulled a hernia. And I go to the hospital. They provide me medication that time. So that information, I realize now later, they were trying to use that medication that I was on Pillhead, right?
Yeah.
But you can see the prescription I get once, and I don't even ever get it again.
I got 2 prescriptions, and they tried to make me a Pillhead.
Never.
Same thing, dude.
You'll see. I never touched it, right?
This is crazy.
So that goes on, and then at the end of that report, what does it say? It says we provided all the United States Attorney's Office has a narrative in the bottom, and I'll send it to you so you can, if you want to use a snippet of it.
Yeah.
The very bottom of the report, it says the FBI has utilized multiple resources, including multiple agencies across the state, during an investigation on Yousef Hafsa for anti-corruption. During these times, they provided multiple resources, pen warrants, surveillance, blah blah blah. At this time, it's the FBI. We're notifying the FBI to close this report out, as there's no proof of a federal, state, or local violation committed by Yousef Hafsa.
So you were
this
3
case is closed.
years under investigation without you knowing it.
So they utilized it. So what I find out later is when I'm reading the report is that the FBI was working with my agency, with the chief and with the local specialty units.
Yep.
So these specialty units were all involved on me. And then I realized now I was going into specialty unit interviews.
Yep.
I went in for SWAT 3 times. I never got it, even though I passed. Guys were passing out in front of me, getting IVs. I stayed the entire day, fucking dragging on my hands and knees to make it to the finish line. And I'd finish. I'd go to these interviews, and I would only be rejected.
Because
I'd say, why? Why did I get rejected?
Black flagged and you didn't know it.
Right. Yep. And then I went to the canine interview, and I got denied. And then I went to the crime suppression unit, and I got denied.
This is the municipality you worked for first.
But they were working. The FBI was already with them, working, having me under investigation.
Yeah.
And then I look at it now, and I'm like, that's why. That's why the people I thought were my friends were cutting me off. That's why they weren't answering my calls. Yep. That's why I was kind of on my own island at the time.
Guys were getting hired, and the guys I'm friends with now, very few, told me when they got hired, do not hang out with, don't go around Mike Dilks, don't be near him, don't be a friend.
That happened, yeah.
He's a piece of shit. And then, ironically, he came on my podcast 2 weeks ago and says, you're one of 3 people in the entire agency in my career that didn't end up being a piece of shit, was the one they told me to watch out for. Because they're fucking the pieces of shit.
Yeah.
Make you the bad guy to keep their fucking organization.
And it's
somebody around you was trafficking drugs. Somebody around you was trafficking drugs.
And it's difficult because you go to these, you go to the range day with your squad, and there's a big group of officers there, and you see each other, and there's always these groups that are there, and whenever they look at you now, you look back at it and you're like, damn, these guys all believed I was really a piece of shit.
Yep.
These guys really believed I was a fucking whatever it is that they want to believe. But it's so crazy to me that there's no evidence of something, and people can go with the narrative, and that's all it is. You're stuck by it, man. And I fought for years after that, to try to build my reputation as if I had something to prove, and it was never good enough. It was never good enough.
I actually went on to get promoted and everything afterwards, and even the sheriff knew about the investigation. I found out at a wedding 3 months ago that there was actually they were sworn in. There was a federal judge that swore everybody in to the investigation against me, and it was like a whole same thing. I'm sure there was a pen there was a pen register. All that shit happened to me as well. I don't have the receipts yet though, because I haven't even gotten the fucking.
So when remember when I told you on the podcast, I did a public records request to them, and they told me 5 years. It would come
up
out
to 5 years.
So then they released. They released the first. I think they said it was like 1,200 documents on me. So they released like 300, and I got the first 300, and I sat there like super excited to read it. Like I'm gonna see this bro. It's like I'm fucking Jason Bourne without the money,
Well, I got part of mine. And they had a whole section on drug deals and phones and wire. Come to find out, it was my ex-wife's phone number that they were using in the reference, because she had still the same last name. Yeah. They had all these phone calls where you talked to this guy that day. I let him ask for like 10 minutes, and I went, that's not my phone number. I'm like, every document, the 27 pages from here on is not my number. You guys have the federal government has the wrong number and has transcripts saying it's me, and it's the wrong person. I'm you guys are, what the fuck, dude?
So what makes it worse is that like my ex-wife at the time, we're married. When we got divorced, she was the one that kind of went on a tyrant, rant, and started calling all these agencies on me after we split, right? So we're going to the court. She testified against me during my criminal trial. and the state used her even though we're going through custody
Yeah, which
battle.
shouldn't be.
But she,
I know that's the most biased, angry ex-wife.
Well,
Angry
she'll fucking
ex-wife,
say you
baby
fucking
mama.
did anything.
Oh,
at
she's
that
gonna
point,
give
yeah.
us credible.
Oh, she
Whatever
did. She did.
whatever
She
they
did.
want, he did it.
Well, her main testimony at my trial was I always had road rage, our entire marriage.
Yeah.
You know, but yet the guys involved, they try to claim they didn't have any road rage. But to tell you a little bit more, she's even recent up to this time now, she's contacted the FBI on me, Homeland Security. She's contacted the IRS.
Bro, this is the mother of your children.
She's contacted the IRS on me, said I'm doing money laundering. Right?
Do you think that she was the one that originally, or no? You guys were together at that point.
We were split. We divorced. We were divorced at the time.
When the cocaine.
During your investigation.
Oh no! During my investigation, we don't know if she was involved. It's just kind of weird that where would this information come from?
That's what he's saying. Like it has to be somebody brought it up out of thin air, or somebody was doing it, but it wasn't you.
Correct.
It had to be one of the two.
Correct. And there's no evidence of anything of me doing it. Even when they're interviewing me, there's no evidence of me. Like literally, they're asking me questions about people. Like, who's this guy? I was like, it's my tattoo artist. They're like, you know, he's a felon. I was like, I don't know he's a felon. They're like, well, you know, he's been to federal prison. I was like, how the fuck do I know?
Yeah, he's a tattoo artist.
I don't walk in there. I'm like, can I see your resume, please?
He's probably got
Are you on
bomb ass
probation?
tattoos.
You know what I'm saying? They're like, yeah, well, you know, this guy's, and they're making me feel bad about, you know, me going. So I stopped going to get tattoos.
There was something deep there. You were close. You know? Somebody near you, or close, or something was doing something that made you. But even scapegoat.
But even the FBI, if they wanted me that bad, right, and they had a little bit, they could still do the conspiracy that they're notorious for. They could still do that. They could still hang me on something, right? They didn't have nothing. And my attorney afterwards said, during my case when I got in the shooting, he said the same thing like you guys. Like, I can't fucking believe you went in there without an attorney. He's like, do you realize if you would have just lied about cheating on your wife and they know about it, they would have got you for a federal crime.
Yeah.
For lying to a federal agent. He's like, it's that simple. They get people all the time. They ask.
Yeah, that's like they got like Trump's lawyers.
All they have to do is get you for lying to a federal agent.
And it's like it's a federal charge.
That's all they do, and they get you on that charge, and then from there, your life is screwed, and they start.
Oh yeah, because you can lie to state and local cops all day. They expect you to lie.
Yeah, they'll say you lied under a federal investigation to a federal agent.
My attorney, who was like you know, he's with Nee James' office and shit. Like they deal with him all the time. He's like, I can't believe you went in there without an attorney and walked out.
Crazy.
You know? He's like, and you walked out.
I had 3 of them in my house for like 7 hours.
Yeah,
an analyst, an FBI agent, and a DA agent sat in my house for like 7 hours.
But it's difficult because
I love it too. You're the only reason why they're in your house is because you allowed them to come in.
I wanted to do it at the kitchen table with my mom sitting there. I was like, let my mom sit here and listen too. No, let's go out here. And then they did. I can pick the times they did control phone calls. They had people call me and ask me to dumb shit like run tags, shit I never did.
Yeah,
and then they did the same thing to me. They cold met me one day with a bunch of pictures of people that I knew, and they wanted me to say I didn't know who those people were. And I think the same thing would happen.
Yeah.
As soon as I would have said no, I don't know that guy. The main guy, I said, yeah, I know him. He's a fucking pussy. He grows marijuana. I'm pretty sure he tips me off all the time, but he lives right out here. And I think they were waiting for me to say I don't know him. That would have been a lie, or call him right after and say, hey, these feds just asked him about me.
So that is knowledge that needs to be out there.
And keep in mind that
I would lie to a fed.
But think about this.
I can think I would lie a lot to the feds right now, but now I know not to.
Yeah,
they're just looking for one little nugget,
one little thing
and
to
then
get you in, and then from there they'll use that as.
Now they have you, so let's work.
Right. And you're the thing about the federal system, and I spent time there making cases, is you have zero preparation. You get arrested, you're going to trial. There's no depositions. There's nothing.
They built their case for years.
They walk in for that 3-year case on him. They would have walked in and handed his attorney fucking 2 truckloads of documents and said, "You have till Monday. We're going to trial." And you're done. And that's why so many people pllee.
That's why they have a high conviction rate.
Because you have to plea.
Yeah.
Because they'll be like, you're going to do 50 years and we're going to send you to fucking
San Quentin.
Yeah, we're going to send you across the country. You're not going to see your family. Or if you plea, we'll put you down in Miami for a couple years. And we got our conviction. You're here. Your family can see you. And you're good. And Eddie Gallagher, like federal military, they extort you and they fucking put you through the position where even if you're innocent, you can't fight it. You cannot fight it. You have to take the plea or you're fucked.
All my all of you guys, all my friends have had some wild stories where they were wrongfully persecuted. And I feel like so blessed. That
I did dumb shit. I'm not going to resolve myself. I hung out with some people I shouldn't have hung out with. I went on some trips to a couple of strip club trips with some pretty fucking shady dudes. But what I got accused of was outrageous.
Yeah.
And they tried to paint me as a crook. And again, if they had anything on me,
I was very proactive.
Me
in
too.
The streets.
Yeah.
And I'll put it this way: I don't know the stats of everywhere else. I did it while I was in Orange County for a short period of time, but I would say in Brevard County alone, and again, they can question my receipts if you want to. In Brevard County alone, before I got arrested, I was with the sheriff's office for 6 months, from January up till June before I got arrested. Right. I had the most arrests in the entire agency. Yeah. And a deputy calls me when I get out on bond, and he goes, end of the year, he's like, you do realize you were with us for 6 months, you still have the most arrests for the entire year than everyone in the sheriff's office, and you were gone for 6 months. So you were only with us for 6 months. You had the most arrests.
It's always the guys like that.
What happened is when I was working, there was also information that I was violating people's rights, right? So before the agency was
fucking
testing,
informants, fucking check.
I had informants. I had my own CIs that I established, and they're asking me, who's this guy? How are you getting this information? I'm like, I have a CI. They're like, well, who is he? You can't do that. I'm like, why? Why can't I do that? I have information coming to me, and I'm solving crimes, right?
I have to go through some dumbass program now that you guys paid $3 million for to put the intel that someone else is going to steal. No.
So I had a database. Basically, what I did is on my PowerPoint,
you created your own.
I did the same thing.
Yep. And I will say this: I got it from somebody else's idea,
so
I'll give him credit. But I built it. I ended up establishing it had about 2,000 or 3,000 people on it. So if I ran into you on the side of the road, you gave me your info. I put your David photo on there, and then I put your DOC photo so I can see what you look like when your head was shaved. I had your DOC, I had your criminal history, and I put your ties to who. So if it said you're affiliated with Jane Marie and John Doe, I had those, and then I put their info. So people would call me from another.
And they wonder why he's a savvy businessman. Yeah. You just take that same mindset and you apply it to something else.
That's it. Bro, they would put out a bulletin and say attempt to identify, and I'd be like, oh shit, I know that guy. I've seen him before, and I go.
I'm gonna set this up where it's streamlined.
I still get calls. I still get called. I did the same thing. I created documents and cars.
Listen,
baby mama's house. I had pages, and I learned it from my friend that passed away a month and a half ago, Paul Mewborn. He was a sergeant, and he taught me that. He was like, this is what you need to do. Keep a document of everything you do, every time you stop them, every time what they're driving, where their baby mama lives, who their girlfriend is. And I just kept a file on everybody. And
I get a call. I get a call one night from a Melbourne cop, and she goes, hey, we got this guy stopped at the 7-Eleven gas station. He's given us a name. We don't have a rapid ID with us right now to get his fingerprint. Can we send you a picture of him? Because they're saying you know everybody around here. And that's not even my city. I work in Palm Bay. I'm like, yeah, send me his picture. They send me his photo, and I look at him. I go, oh shit. And I start going after the photo because I keep seeing these pictures every day. I go to the gallery, so I start scrolling through really fast, and I find the guy, and I'm like, this is his name, and I run him on David. As soon as I sent it to her, he's got felony warrants, and he's already in cuffs. And she's like, dude, thank you so much. And she's like, can't believe it. They told me you're the guy, right? So when they're getting ready to test body cams, they go and they give me, hey, you've been selected to have a body cam. We're gonna put a body cam on you. So they start running body cams on me. Not to get off topic, I'll give you one more quick story about how they pull me in one day and they say they notify me that in order to show cause, that the defendant and his attorney were going to try to sue me and sue the city for lying on a traffic stop on how I identified the person. So the chief and everyone called me in and they're panicked. They're like, dude, you need to go to fucking court tomorrow and prove how you stopped this car because he doesn't have any ties to the on David. He has no ties to this car. And you said you positively identified him before you stopped the car. I go, oh, I did. And then the body cam, you can see me call his name. They're like, yeah, but how'd you do it? They're showing the defense is arguing that there's no way because they ran everything. He has no ties. I said, oh, I'll show you how I did it. So I go to court. I'm like, don't worry about it. I got this. And they're telling me like, well, you make sure you prove this because you're in some serious trouble. They told me that.
Thanks, leadership.
Right.
I'll handle it.
So I go to court and the attorney gets up and he starts bashing me. This guy has a fucking record. He's notorious for being out here for stopping people for bullshit and arresting them for dwellis and blah, 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 blah. And he goes, I would like him to explain how he got this. And the state attorney is like telling me like, oh, I can't tell you anything, but you need to go up there and show the judge. I said, I'll show the judge. Okay, how'd you do it? I said, yeah, I go, Your Honor, right here. So I'm driving, as you can see in the video, and I see the car, and I run the tag. It comes back to a female with this address. I see a male driving. I type her address into David, and I hit search. 5 people showed up as occupants of the address. His photo was right there under the address. I clicked his photo, and he had a different address, but he was tied to her mailing address on David, and he had a suspended license. I walked up. I said, hey, David, how you doing today? He goes, hey, what's up, man? He's shaking. I go, why are you driving, dude? That's the first thing I said in the video. Why are you driving? He goes, I know, man. I go, dude, your fucking license suspended. And I go, that's how I identified him, Judge. And his attorney goes, well, that can't be justified. Show us how you did it. And I said, and I looked at him. I go, I don't think I can show you. It's a violation of David. If I show you.
It is.
You know. And the state attorney goes, well, the judge goes, well, show the state attorney, and I'll look at it. And I go, okay. And I come up and I said, that's the tag. And then once I put the address, I highlight it, I paste it under address search, and 5 people popped up. And the judge goes, oh, okay. And the judge looks at the defense attorney after it's all said and done. He goes, I think the officer didn't put information in the report that he should have that would have shown what he did. And I think he did it for maybe.
But that's a young cop thing.
I don't even think it's a young cop thing. It's so
tactical.
So only there's a handful of dudes that do
You
that
don't want
and
people
even
to know how you
that.
do it.
Tactical, yeah.
Yeah,
So the judge said
not everybody does that, but that's a good cop when you do that.
Yeah, the judge said, I think he did it on for purposes that he didn't want to be known on how he found it. But he said also, I think the officer utilized a system that other people aren't utilizing.
Exactly.
And he goes, it may be up for question about whether or not he can do that through later on however they define it.
I don't see how it is,
but he goes, it's justified and I don't see any violation.
Public record.
So I went back
the reason why the fucking stuff's there.
But what my agency basically applied to me at that time was, dude, you're on the borderline of shit that you do. And I'm like, how? I'm not violating policy. They're like, you're on the borderline. And I'll give you one more story. I know I'm going all over, but we're talking about administration, how they fuck you up. I'm pulling up in my car in Palm Bay. The light's red. A motorcycle pulls up right next to me and pulls in front of me. There's cars stopped. We're on a 4-way intersection. He looks back at me and he goes right through the red light.
Your squad car.
Patrol car.
Yeah.
Pulls right next to me, looks at me, and goes right through the red light. There's no tag on the bike. And I'm sitting there and I'm like looking around and people are all staring at me.
Yeah, they're like, you can allow that?
The fuck are you doing? So on the video, I put my lights on to clear the intersection. I go through and I turn my lights off. I get on the radio, 181. I had a motorcycle just run a red light in front of me. Attempted to catch up, he went westbound on Palm Bay Road, passing so-and-so. And I'm just driving, not even flying, and it gets proven later. About a mile up so later, there's smoke, right?
Justice.
Cadillac comes out, and he T-bones the Cadillac. And he goes over the Cadillac, shit everywhere, the bike was disintegrated. So I pull up, I jump out my car, and what do you think I'm thinking first thing? Oh, fuck.
Yeah, you're fucked.
They're going to say
you're fucked.
Yeah.
Wasn't even pursuing him, and I'm like, oh, fuck, I'm fucked. So I get up there, I pull the guy's visor up, and he's gurgling. His fucking eyes are just, pupils are
death
gone.
gurgle.
He's just gurgling. He's out, bro. He's
That's
like,
it.
right? He's gasping. The Cadillac he hit, like he hit it over 100 plus. They're injured in the car. Everybody's getting out like, this guy's fucking driving crazy, man. Did you see him? And I'm just like not even listening. I'm just like, I wasn't fucking pursuing him.
I'm fucking fired.
I wasn't fucking pursuing him, right?
Give me my lawyer.
So everybody shows up, and as soon as they show up, what do you think they're doing? They're huddled up, right?
What are we going to do with him?
And I'm standing there, and I'm like, hey, Lieutenant. He's like, hold on a second. Just stay over there. I'm like, hey, Captain, just stay over there. We'll get with you in a minute. And I'm like pacing back and forth. I'm like, I didn't do anything, man.
You have just turned into the criminal to them.
I'm like, this.
We do the same thing. Hold on. Give me one second. Give me 1 second, boss.
This
I'll be right with
this
you.
guy drove the way he did. I didn't do anything to him, right? That's what I'm trying to tell him. So, to my luck, there was an off-duty captain who worked in our agency who was driving when he passed her, and she's a captain. She's like, there was nobody pursuing him. She said just like that. She goes, I said, look. She's like, she tells him, she's like, he was not pursuing him. I'm telling you right now, the guy flew past me, and other cars passed me, and I didn't see a patrol car in sight. And then all of a sudden, when I saw the smoke, I pulled over, and then he showed up and put his lights on. But they pulled me in, and they said, we're gonna do an interview with you about this guy. So they pull me in. They're like, he's gonna die, And there's like the motorcycle was stolen out of Tampa. This guy has been all over bulletin, stealing motorcycles everywhere. And they're talking to me. I'm like, what are you talking to me for?
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And the guy's mom.
I solved
you got the
I
criminal.
solved the big crime. I solved the crime ring.
Closed news cases.
The guy's mom tells the officers when they're talking to her about his potential death. She said, "Man, he's been doing this shit for years. We can never stop him." And she said he'll run with a female on the back and he'll kick patrol cars and take off. He's been doing it all over the state of Florida. He never stops. She's like, we knew this was going to come. So he's still dying. He's still alive. They pull me in. They go, tell us about what happened. I said, I wasn't pursuing him. Right away when I start, I did this. They said, okay, well, when you put your lights on, what was the purpose? I said, to clear the intersection per the policy, so I don't get hit by a car.
Who gave you all that intel just now before they pulled you in?
About the guy?
Yeah.
That was coming in from the agency, from like, hey, this was stolen out of Tampa, and then people were basically saying like his mom said, he's been doing this for years. He steals bikes everywhere he goes, So then I'm like, I wasn't pursuing him, I said I put my lights on to clear the intersection, and this guy looks at me of IA and goes, but in his mind he knew you were coming after him. I said, no, I didn't know that. I don't know what he was thinking. All I know is I was clearing the intersection. He goes, but a person knew when he looked back at you, he knew that you're coming. I was like, I didn't know. I don't know what he thought.
Yeah.
I'm telling you what I did. I cleared the intersection and I turned my lights off. He's like, But you following him down that same road would be enough to he's running for a reason. I said, sir, I cleared the intersection. I have an obligation to protect the community by attempting a traffic stop. Yeah. Can I attempt a traffic stop or I'm not allowed to?
Yeah.
I said, I never got close enough to do a traffic stop. I never did. But you do know he knew. I said, I don't know what he knew. I don't know anything. I'm telling you what I did.
I hate internal affairs. I was in, not that this has any weight, but I was in this once for some dumb shit, for some dumb broad that I work with that did social media violations. And the investigator in front of me is sitting there and she's like, and like, how is she's asking me all these things? And she's like asking me about like, she's like, I don't really know how like the social media stuff works, like ats and mentions and stuff. And I'm like, you're an investigator for internal affairs and you expect me to believe that you don't know how social media works? Like, they'll just fucking say anything.
They will.
Yeah. And I'm a cop with you. I'm not in trouble. Just be like, yo, this is like, you don't have to fucking try to manipulate me. I'm a fucking witness.
And I went through many IAs, obviously being aggressive. When I went through the one that got me demoted, it was noticeably different line of questioning and type of, it was more like the FBI interview.
Yeah.
I went from tell us what happened. Okay, it went to that type of questioning. Like, well, why did you leave your siren on? Why did you go back in the car? Why did you? I'm like, this is an IA. You're not supposed to be asking me. Like, I'm telling you what happened. You have a video, and like it was worse. And my wife went through the same investigation with me. And I remember he interviewed first, and she called me and she said, "Is an IA supposed to feel like a deposition?" I'm like, no, it's supposed to be like an impartial gathering of facts.
And then they present it to the chain of command.
And then I started reading her. I have the copy of it, and I never went back and read it because I've been too fucking mad. And when I started reading hers and the line of questioning that she was getting drilled with by this piece of shit IA investigator, it made me so mad. It was just a week or two ago. I slammed the fucking computer down. I was like, why didn't you stand up and flip the fucking table over? What we didn't was because we're both very good cops who love the agency and would have done anything for them at that point. Mm-hmm. So I always had in my mind, I'm sure you did at some point, and it changed. They're not going to fuck me. I'm a good cop. I work hard. I fucking put guys in jail. I push the policy to the limit to get people arrested. They're never going to do this to me. They're never. I had it in my mind. I went through that whole IA where they allegedly were going to have me arrested for battery and charge me with like group 3 fucking terrorism without an attorney. Because I was like, there's no way they're going to do this to me because I have done so much for this place. Yeah. And then you find out you're expendable, just like they're trying to do to you.
And the thing about it is we'll go back to my criminal case when I got arrested. When I was preparing to go to trial, they had all these witness officers going to testify against me on what they did during the investigation. But I went after their records. I pulled every officer in and said, you want to come into this shit and you want to put your name in it to bury me alive?
Let's go.
Let's go. I said, everything's coming out. So all those stupid IAs they dragged you into, it's coming up now.
Yeah.
Now the agency that wants to bury me has to deal with the fact that they dragged these people through IAs.
3 IAs, 5.
And I brought them in, and guess what they did? The state said, we can't use them.
Yep.
He's going to go after them. We can't use them. This is, one of them had a fucking DUI. You know, one had a DUI, right? In his history.
Yeah.
So you want to come up here and you talk about me, and you want to sit here and give things that you think happened, but you don't have evidence, but you want to drag yourself in this because you want an award. You want to get promoted to sergeant lieutenant. I was during the investigation of the Hofstad case. Scumbag dirtbags.
One of my captains that voted for me to get demoted had a DUI too. He got a DUI, got fired, got rehired, and made it all the way back to captain, and he was in there.
So you have
the thumbs down for me.
So you have people who have done shit really they've been.
They forget that though. When they're on the right side of it, when they're on the right side of the investigation, you're the piece of, how could he do this?
Right.
Oh, how could he do that?
And in a situation like mine, which was a shooting off duty, and there was no evidence provided to anyone other than speculation.
And
there was a sergeant who came in there and said the shell casings are over here. He's saying he shot him from here. This is a fucking bad shoot. And it just started going through all the agencies, and people are going, he's getting arrested.
And the scary part about being investigated in-house like that is just that. Prior beef.
There's too many opinions.
I'm a fucking beta cop. He's an alpha cop. I got him now. Like he fucking out there chasing bad.
They're putting noise in FDLE's
That is the
ears.
problem with anything being involved, and that's where it's the good old boy system. You'll Grady Judd, kill him 80,000 rounds until you're on the wrong side of that fucking thing, and then you're getting buried by these guys.
The canine cop I talk about it, the one that he searches the guy that was driving early. We're talking about 4 or 5 hours into the investigation. The blood's not even cold yet on the dead guy, and they don't know what happened. At least they're claiming they don't know. My story, his story is different.
Your story doesn't matter.
So they bring the driver in, and they're like, we're going to interview him in the car, FDLE. So a canine officer shows up and he says I patted him down. He got in the car with FDLE and I left. And then the guy's crying on a video and he's like, I know I'm going to go to jail. And he's like, what are you worried about? The FDLE agent. He goes, I know I'm going to go to jail for the drugs you found on me. And the agent said, oh, we don't care about the drugs. Just get it out of your head. We want to know about the shooter. We want to know about him. So we're like, damn. My attorney goes, hey, did you see any drugs in discovery? I go, no. He goes, hey, they found drugs on this guy, but we can't find it. I go, there's no way. I'm still in jail, right? I was like, there's no way. He's like, yeah, there's
because
drugs
he's a
on this
bad
guy.
witness if he's got drugs on him.
So we start going through. So what do? We do a public records request, and all the officers involved. We start a timestamp from the day of the shooting up to a month or so after, and then it comes back that this canine cop that did the search on him said, I searched him, found nothing. He got in the car, and he has a supplement report. There's like 100 supplements, same case number, different ending. Then the same day, he has another report with a whole different case number, and it says
found property.
It says found property, right?
He changed the case number, so
he made a whole new case number.
For it,
same narrative.
Unless you're looking for it.
Same narrative, different case number. Found property. And all it says, same exact narrative. And it says, we showed up to a shooting on this case, made contact with Jose Montanez, the driver. FDLE wanted to interview him, patted him down for searching him for any weapons, found a bag of what appeared to be marijuana. FDLE advised me to submit it for destruction. No further action. So now we're like, hey, on a homicide case, any good agent knows on a homicide case, that's all evidence. You don't get rid of anything.
No way do you do a second report. You don't do a second fucking report.
On a dead man. And then where are you disposing of marijuana on a homicide case? Right? Now we're talking about, again, let's play the devil's advocate. Was it a drug deal gone bad on a former cop, on a cop who's trying to buy drugs, right? And shoots a guy dead. Is it a drug deal gone bad? Was the guy high on marijuana? Was the guy high on cocaine when he attacked me? We don't know. The guy who survived, we don't know because they never submitted it. And they say it looked like marijuana, but they never tested it, right?
Could have been laced.
So they submit it for destruction. So the jury now doesn't get to see all the evidence that I say, hey, look, I get to challenge the fact that this guy was under the influence when he attacked me. When he provided a police statement, he could have been under the influence of marijuana or cocaine.
Can you imagine?
And they submitted it and they got rid of it.
Can you imagine taking a regular drug case or any other investigation that you made and telling the state attorney that you had Tyler show up, search a guy, and make a new case number and put drugs in and destroy him?
Dude,
you'd be investigated.
Shit like that gets you fired, arrested, and decertified.
Decertified. You'd be gone.
You see what I'm saying?
And it happened during a fucking homicide. You would be, if you pulled that stunt and. I mean, we used to do the old put in evidence, write a report to flip a guy.
Yeah,
but if you just had some random cop, they would say you're trafficking drugs, you're hiding drugs. This guy's your friend.
Listen, we know
that
marijuana.
Part there blows my fucking mind. That's the craziest part of the story.
So listen,
that's the craziest part of the story.
Misdemeanor marijuana, for those listening, is it's discretion, right? So, but you have to submit
that
for destruction.
That's
but
fine.
Not on a homicide.
Not on a homicide.
Not
Everything is relevant.
Yeah.
Everything is relevant.
Not on a felony.
Every
case.
article of clothing.
The fact that the guy had
every
marijuana
witness.
on him during some type of altercation or impairment or some type of poor decision
We're talking about
making.
hours. They don't even know what happened.
The fucking a beer bottle in the floorboard
that
is going to
would
be
be
submitted
relevant.
as
Yes,
evidence.
yes, that would be no different than taking a bottle and throwing it out in the woods or something.
Correct. So they're saying so that happens, right? So we bring in the canine
That's
cop.
fucking nuts.
So we bring in the canine cop and they bring him in as a deposition. My attorney goes, I'm not going to tell him what it's for. I'm going to bring in a deposition. So they bring him in and they say, tell us about the drugs you found on the guy. And he says, I never found drugs on him.
Oh.
And they said, just tell us about the drugs you found. He goes, I never found drugs. So they give him his first report. And he reads it and he goes, yeah, I never found any drugs. It's clear right there. And they go, is this your other report? And they handed him the second one. And his fucking face turned red as a tomato.
He should be fired and arrested.
And he
right
just
there.
sat there and he goes, oh my God, I was so stressed out. I forgot. This case really bothered me. I'm so sorry. He goes, FDLE told me to do that. They told me to get rid of it. So my attorney basically, he was listed as a Brady witness. And then somehow he resigned. He became a pilot. I mean, he did better for his life, but he resigned out of the, fast. He resigned.
He should have been arrested.
Yeah.
He should have been arrested.
Now FDLE fires back and they say, we never told him that.
Of course not.
So they start going back and forth now, right? We don't know nothing about the marijuana. He never told us that. We don't know anything about it.
Does your boy, what's his name? The FDLE agent?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So here I am, a defendant sitting in jail facing life in prison while the state is trying to come up with a narrative. So they go, hey, guess what? The best scenario is it's second degree murder. They already charged me. I'm in jail. They already charged me. Now they're trying to come up with a narrative. They go, we think it's a love triangle. We think he shot him because he was sleeping with his ex-wife. That's gonna give them a good motive for second degree murder, right? You have to have something, right? Then they can't figure it out. Then possibly a drug deal gone bad. These are things my attorney was telling me he's hearing. They think it's drug deal gone bad. They think it's. I was like, drug deal. Where would drugs come out of the picture? Where they, so that's when I knew the FBI, all these other narratives that they were spewing in the past. It's coming to haunt me now. It's really giving me putting everything against me with my back against the wall.
Mind-boggling, dude. This is mind-boggling.
Yeah.
If that were any other case, non-cop, and that case would be tossed just on that canine report alone.
Well, let me give you a little bit
It
mind-boggling.
would be gone.
And I have the video to show it online. 2023. So I got acquitted 2021. 5 years later, a jury found me not guilty, even with the state's testimony, my ex-wife's testimony, came back to found me not guilty on 3 counts. Right? 2 years later, the driver who attacked me in the car, I told FDLE that he was following me on the side of my car and swerving at my vehicle almost like a pit maneuver. And he followed me 4.5 miles. Why didn't you go faster? Why didn't you do this? They challenged me. They go, you're this cop. You could have did this. You could have went to the police station, right? So 2023, he gets arrested for chasing 2 women down on the same road and trying to. And what did the lady say? He's driving on oncoming traffic. That's what I told FDLE. I said, nobody else called it in. You're the only one that claims he was doing that. Same guy driving on the wrong side of the road.
Arrested.
The women said he tried to swerve at their car. And what the officer said, and what sounds like a quote, he put pit maneuver.
Same thing.
To hit the side of their car.
And they found probable cause to arrest him.
Then they said the women went down a side street, went to their fiance. Fiance came out. The driver accelerated, tried to hit the fiance with the vehicle, and crashed in a ditch, bailed on foot, and was picked up by another driver. They said he was arrested later, charged with driving while license suspended, 3 counts of aggravated assault with a motor vehicle, and DUI.
All the stuff he wasn't charged with
and
for
DUI.
you. All the stuff he wasn't charged with for you.
And guess what? He went to jail, bonded out 3 hours later. And I sat in jail for almost 3 months. The news agency reached out to me, and we did an interview. It's on Channel 9. And
when that happened?
The same thing.
Yeah.
You know what? It happened when I got arrested. The case happened on Emerson Road. When he got arrested, he did the same case on Emerson Road. So go back to all the thing I'm telling you right now. For all the viewers watching, going, he did something wrong. He had to. The FBI, there's no way. Well, everything the FBI did, everything FDLE did, I never got arrested up to that point till my shooting. Then I get arrested and I get cleared. And the guy that they charged me, claiming I tried to kill and all this stuff, does the same thing again.
And gets arrested based on a non-police officer's statement, and they find probable cause and arrest him, but your statement was bullshit.
My statement was incredible enough. I had no
credibility.
And
he had drugs on him that day, and they covered
fight.
up drugs that were on him the day that he did it to you.
Right. And this guy was a star witness for the state attorney's office now that they're prosecuting for the same thing.
Unbelievable.
You know?
Jeez.
Unbelievable,
so again,
man.
you go back and look at that, you know.
There is, I'm convinced you were close or were near something pretty significant because you're, just like I was, an aggressive, hard-charging informant, dope rings. You're taking people down. You were close to somebody or something that led them to go, we got to get rid of this fucking guy. And I believe, it sounds crazy, sounds conspiracy.
No,
I believe wholeheartedly something happened where you were close to somebody and they needed to fucking find a reason to get rid of you.
Well, I believe you because I've had guys in the narcotics unit. I've had guys call me before and say, hey, that car you stopped, let it go. And I'm just like, what?
Yep.
Where the fuck are you?
Yep.
How do you know? They're like, let that guy go. He just called us. Let him go. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
But
I'm trying to be a team player here.
Right. I'm over here doing traffic stop. I'm like, don't cancel the dog. Don't bring him. Let him go. I'm like, okay, well, I understand you got something going on, but are you going to tell me or are you just going to tell me to
Some of
release
that
the
is
guy
investigations.
and then I get in trouble for it.
You were involved in something.
I'm just letting this guy go, and then I get in trouble later. Like, well, did you know him? Why'd you let him go? Like, some fucking guy called me and said, let him go.
Yeah.
You know? And you know what's crazy? Before I knew I was under investigation, this is how proactive I was. I'm driving through my apartment complex one night in Palm Bay. It's like 2 a.m. I black out. I'm driving. I see a car blacked out, sitting, kind of moving with no lights on. I get behind it, and it takes off, and I turn my lights on, and I do a traffic stop. And I walk up, and the guy's fucking shaking. True story. Around the time I was under investigation, the guy's shaking. And I identify myself. I go, what are you doing here? He goes, sorry, man. I go, what? And he's like, I'm sorry about that. I go, you have no lights on. He goes, I understand. I'm sorry. I go, what are you doing? What are you doing here? Do you live here? He goes, no. He goes, I'm an FBI agent. It was right around my apartment.
He got burned.
And I go, you're what? He goes, I'm an FBI agent. I said, okay. Like, you're driving with no lights on. I mean, do you have credentials? And he goes, yeah. Hands me his credentials. And I'm like, all right, well, I don't know what to do here. Let me just go back and shoot a quick phone call, make sure, like, you're valid. Like, the car wasn't even like an Impala, so I was kind of thrown off.
A lot of them drive their own personal cars.
Right. But when I tell you, he was shaking. Right, so
because he knew he was going to have to tell somebody he got burned, and he was fucking
and it was
worked.
Me.
Yes,
and it was me.
You were
the guy who was watching.
Yes,
right. So he's
the dumbass of the fucking office.
Right,
now.
This is a dirty ass cop. He's going to kill me,
dude. I go sit in my car, and the deputy chief calls me before I can make a phone call. It's like 2 a.m. Calls me, and I go, hello. He goes, let him go right now. Give him back his ID. Turn off your lights and go the other way. I was like, what? He goes, let him go right now, with an aggressive voice. I go, okay. He goes, give him his ID right now, turn around and go the other way. End of discussion. I go, okay. Click, hangs up.
The target pulls over the fucking investigator. That's wild.
I gave him
Yeah.
his ID. I was like, have a great day, sir. He's like, thank you. Get in my car, I drove off.
That was
What
a
the
not.
fuck
That was
that?
not a good.
Never saw him again a day in your
No,
life?
that was not a good
Never
day
seen
for
him.
him because I'm
Yeah.
sure he got railroaded by.
Yeah, I
the-
never saw that guy
Oh,
again.
God.
But it came back. Everything came back as a flash when I started dealing with these guys, and I realized.
So
I was
that
going to
just
say,
shows
you
you how
didn't say
far-
that story on Antihero.
That shows you.
No. That's all this stuff started coming to a flash when I started thinking about all the encounters.
That's how
I
far
had.
back. So you know
That's
you
how
were. You
far
know you were
back.
under investigation then.
Yeah, early on
Yeah.
under investigation,
That's
and
fucking
and
wild.
they always promote being proactive. I tell you, if you can be over proactive, and you can get yourself in trouble where they think, well, how are you doing this? It's not that hard to outrun and outwork people in this industry.
It's not.
Anything, even in business. That's why I found
but
success.
and it's a double-edged sword because by putting, so I came through 05 to 12, and the guys before me were all fucking informants. They were all crooked. They were and all the guys on the streets would tell me this guy did this. Back then, you're like, no way that guy would do that. Now it's very apparent. But I came into that era where I didn't do that. But because I was in narcotics and I was so successful and I had female informants, FBI actually interviewed one of them during my investigation, accused me of having sex with her, and she cleared all that up. But when you put yourself, it's like the double-edged sword. You put yourself in that situation to be such a hard-charging cop and put your life on the line and suck, and you're up, and the phone rings all the time, you're answering the calls, and then they just turn on you when it's time and say, oh, he must be a crooked cop. He's got a lot of informants. I'm sure he's doing dope. He's fucking banging them all. Yeah. And you just get lumped into that fucking nonsense. And it sucks, man.
And I'll tell you the flash story, and this was nothing I did wrong or accused of being wrong. But the same chief that had me under investigation all these years, one night my ex-wife was pregnant, very far pregnant, about 6-7 months pregnant. And then we get a knock on the door at like midnight, and I go grab my gun. I'm like, who the fuck is at my door? You know, I have a patrol car outside. And I'm like, who is it? You know, and he's like, Chief. And I'm like, what? So we open the door. It's the chief of police. And he's like, hey, sorry to bother you. You know, he's like, we have a problem. I was like, what's up? He's like, Matt killed himself, one of the officers that I worked with. He's like, Matt killed himself. I was like, what do you mean he killed himself? He's like, he committed suicide today up at his house, his mom's house. I go, okay, what do you need from me? I'm sorry. He goes, the family wants to see you. I go, I don't know his family. I don't even know who they are. He goes, they're asking for you. Apparently the mom's crying. She needs to talk to you. I was like, what the fuck? Okay. So I look at my wife. I was like, I got to go. The chief's here. She's like, oh, my God, go ahead. Because I had Matt sleep at my house a few times during FTO after, you know, learning and everything like that. And just a good kid. He was young. He comes over and starts telling me how, you know, he's getting picked on by officers. And he didn't know if he can finish the job and shit like that. I knew him before he became an officer. So anyways, we goes through FTO. He graduates. And then he has an altercation with his girlfriend. And she kicks him out, and she closes the door. He starts banging on the door. Please let me in. She says, I'm calling the cops, and he runs home. He goes home. He starts talking to his mom. He's panicked. He's like, the cops are going to come to my house. I've been doing great on the road. I know they're going to fire me or some shit like that. So she tells him, don't worry about it. Call Yousef. Talk to him. Everything will be fine. He grabs his pistol, goes outside, shoots himself in the ear. Ugh. And so the chief picks me up, and again, I don't know this family. I've never met him. And I had this kid during FTO, and we're friends outside of work. He'd come over our house all the time and spend time with me and my wife and our family. So I go to his house. I get there. There's crime scene tape, and he's laying in the grass. He's draped with an American flag over him. I see his feet, and I'm just like, God damn, this is fucking hard. You know, like, what the fuck is going on here? I'm scared.
You knew him before the cop stuff?
Yeah, I knew him before, yeah.
Just never met his family.
Never met
But
his
just talked to him, okay.
But we spent a lot of time together, outside of work. So I go inside, and as soon as I walk in, it's quiet. There's officers sitting at tables doing reports, kind of with crime scene. And I walk in there, and they're like, hey, the chief's like, this is Yousef. She gets up, and the mom and dad run up, and they grab me, and they start screaming, like crying, going crazy. I'm just kind of standing there, so I start crying, like, what the fuck is going on? She's like, I told him to call you. He said he was going to call you. I know he wouldn't have done this if he talked to you. I told him to call you. All he's ever done is talked about you and said how much he respected you. Man. And during FTO and as a cop, how nice you've been to him and how everybody else treated him like shit. And they make fun of him and they isolate him from the units, but you always given him respect. You always advise him what to do, on how to get his name. You always told him to be aggressive, to be strong, to fight. And I'm just standing there listening to it, you know. And I remember crying about it and going through all that. And it goes so far back that when I went to jail, she began writing me letters and telling me that, you know, because that happened, and then I went to jail not long after. She began writing me letters and saying, I'm so sorry for you. My heart breaks for you. You're like my son, and this is terrible, you know, stuff like that. And then I got out, and she kept reaching out to me about it. about going through the case, and I've been helping her out over the years. She's just always telling me, how do you just talk to you, the impact you had on his life? And I say that not to end it like this or our conversation, but people are gonna. These agencies make narratives about you. They destroyed my life as a cop,
and that's forgotten. That day's forgotten.
Impact. And let me tell you this: they go as far as criticizing him. And I say this: they criticize him. They say he doesn't deserve a law enforcement funeral. He's a coward. They would talk shit about him. And the mom told me they would talk about him in the agency, saying nobody does that and gets away with it. But yet, SWAT officers years later were committing suicide. Even as far as the chief of police, less than 2 years ago, retired after 30-something years. And put a gun to his head and put a note for his mom, right? I'm not criticizing him, but they all honored him. They all honored them. But they pick and choose on who they believe deserves their respect. They pick and choose on who they prosecute. They pick and choose on who they go after. That's the narrative of law enforcement, not only local, across the country. So if you're thinking about getting into this career right now, think wisely about it.
And think about it, like we talk about, that kid killed himself not because of a call, not because of something he saw, not because of a dead baby. He killed himself because of the pressure and the bullshit within the walls of the Brotherhood building.
He told his
doesn't
mom that
fucking exist.
They were going to come after him, and that was it. And she said it's not that big of a deal.
And that is what is wrong, because you put so much pressure on yourself to do everything right, and guys will overthink that they did something wrong, and even because we're so fucking railroaded over the minor things like your fucking pursuit that shouldn't have been a pursuit, that wasn't a pursuit, they called it a pursuit. That weighed on, I guarantee that weighed on you for fucking, probably still weighs on you.
Always
does.
And
that,
whenever I see
those
like
little
suicide,
things add up, and they put so much nastiness into it. And then when you think, I can see financially I've been in a problem. I've never been more, and I can't kill myself, I'm too much of a pussy, but I've never had more thoughts of like, is it worth it, than when I got railroaded by the building and the way I got treated by the people that I thought were my people. I've seen rollovers with 3-year-olds out there, 12-year-olds hang themselves, dudes get launched off bridges. I've seen it all. That goes with the job. That I can compartmentalize that I signed up to do that. I didn't sign up to get fucking railroaded by people that I put my life on the line for and considered close friends, and to come to find out I was just expendable as the fucking criminal any day. Any day that they needed somebody to go, I was able to go. And that is the toughest thing about law enforcement.
And I had when I got out, I was out on bond. In the sheriff's office, it was a FTO I had. Really good guy. We clicked really good together, he was my FTO, and I had more years on than him. So he was always joking about how, I'm teaching him stuff. But such a great guy. And when I was out on bond, he got in a car crash going to work in a semi truck. He was going to his shift briefing, and he got pinned under a semi, and it killed him. And they had all the memorial online, the news, and that was a difficult time for me because it really hurt me inside. I knew the guy, and I knew even after I finished FTO, we were friends on the job, and to kind of have that experience with him, and not be able to express my condolences and my pain, to experience it with anybody else, I had to keep it to myself, and I struggled with that. During that death, for that brief moment, when I saw it, it hurt me inside, and I cried about it. But I had nobody at the sheriff's office or anybody to call because I was out on bond. I was a pending felon.
You fucking
right. So nobody could.
Everybody's told
nobody's
to stay
talking to
away
me.
from me.
So to kind of go through that pain alone and be like, damn, that to see that and not be a part of that circle was another challenge, to get through. But it's all real shit. It's all shit
so
that happens.
Bad,
and you keep going through it.
You nailed it perfectly, Mike. I've never heard anybody call it that. But you said law enforcement is the biggest cult of all time.
It's unreal.
The mind fucking games that you go through when you're wearing a uniform and you become a cop, like you're like that. Like if these guys say I'm bad, I'm dead to the world. And then you forget the fucking world hates cops. They could say, if you have enough confidence and you're like, fuck this place, and you walk, like, no one's gonna think anything different.
They don't.
My buddy Paul died, and we had the funeral, and 3 of us spoke. After the 3 people spoke, the whole sheriff's office was sitting to the front right. They looked over and said, now representative from the sheriff's office. The sheriff looked around unprepared, as if he knew it was going to come. It was in the manual, and somebody needed to speak. He gets up and does, I timed it, 28 seconds for a dead cop who he worked with and was a partner with. 28 seconds is what he gave him in his whatever you want to call it. And that summed it up to me, like the whole thing. I was like, here's another example of a guy. This guy was a fucking hard charge. 20 years military, first sergeant, 82nd Airborne, retires. It goes right into law enforcement. 20 years, got fired, rehired because he was unjustly fired. Came back, got promoted to sergeant. Spent his entire life serving the public, and he got a shitty post this big when he died, and then he got 28 seconds from the sheriff at his funeral, and nobody will remember him fucking being gone. And I was tight with him. I talked to him up until the day, 2 days before he died, and it just all comes around to me that they don't fucking care. They don't care. No, those dudes, they don't care.
You're exactly right.
They don't care.
It is a cult, and the reason why you can say that is even when you talk to people, even for me when I was miserable at times, I couldn't get out of it.
It's in your head.
Yeah,
it's in your head. And if you look at the academy recruits, so you look at a kid who's 19 years old, right? Just 3 days before that, he's in his garage playing, Xbox, whatever he's doing, right? And he's part of like a gaming club, and he's just a kid, right? And then 3 days later, he's getting sworn in, and they're telling him, "You were selected.
Yeah,
you were personally chosen out of thousands of applicants. You are now going to serve." And without even knowing much of the Constitution, much of what it is, you work for the public. 800
policies.
People get mad when they say you work for me. You work for the public. You are serving for them, right? Your only job is to protect and serve. Obviously, it's not to go out there and people say, you're signed up to die. No, you're to protect and serve. But
Correct.
A lot of cops forget that when they go up there and they start yelling at people and demanding shit from them. And I never thought about it until I got out. But I approached a cop once, literally lost, and didn't realize where I was out of state. I was walking up to his car. Was like, hey, trying to walk up to him. He was on the way. He's like, "What do you want?" And I'm like, hey, I'm trying to figure out how to get here. He's like, what? I was like, trying to figure out how to get. He's like, you don't have GPS? I was like, yeah, but it's not working.
Damn, that sounds like me.
but I'm just saying, like, the feeling inside is like, you know what? Fuck you.
Yeah. And then when they get promoted in administration, it's even worse.
Full circle. It's just this disease of law enforcement. That guy is probably at his wit's end with admin. It's not the public that's making him feel that way, but it's the public feeling it because he can't turn around.
Right. And then when you do something stupid in the public, you're the fucking cocksucker.
Yeah.
But they fucking beat you down for so many years and treat you like shit to the point that you're so broken. And then you make one mistake and it's like.
Well, and then you have shit going on at home too that's mounting on top of that. But again, you're made to believe that this is the only life you have, and that's why I talked about it in the last episode.
We did. Yeah, we talked about it.
I talked about it in the last episode. Get out there.
Fuck it, dude.
Get away from the security. Get away from. Get
around real people. Yes. Get around real fucking people.
Get away from crime shit.
Correct.
Go around
Correct.
where you can make money.
I'm still dabble, obviously, because I do the podcast and stuff, but my days now are spent with my dogs, going to the park, going to see my grandkid, going to my mom's house.
To survive.
Just doing things.
To survive
if you would have told me 5 years ago that I'd be out of law enforcement and happy, I'd have told you you're fucking nuts. I would have told you there's no way I'll ever want to do anything else. And now that I'm out, I'm like, fuck that, dude.
I spent my life doing off-duty
details. How nice it is to walk up to people and they're just nice people, dude. They don't fucking hate you. They it's unreal.
Yeah.
And there is a life outside of it, and it's a comfortable life, and you're so much more valuable than some fucking badge and some fucking stupid suit.
I truly believe the only way it'll turn. I know people say it's turning. I think the only way it's going to turn is if cops create their own revolution.
Yeah, mass exodus.
I'm not going to work anymore. You can get these guys that make $150,000 a year that want to push shit down our throat and force us to do it your way. You guys can do it.
Yeah.
On this next 3 days, no one's coming to work, and if once that happens, you'll see who has the real power.
Yeah,
the massive.
Those dudes in Jersey City when we went were telling me that if they touch anybody outside of handcuffing, it's a use of force. Any touch. If you have a person in their car that says they want them, they open the door and like say, "Hey, come on out." The second they touch them, versus past handcuffing, use of force. Can you imagine being that far deep into a microscope that everything? Why would you want to fucking do it?
Why do you?
But because they're making so much money, especially up north there. That's the only thing I put on the cops.
It's not even about the money; it's the cult. Well, I can't do anything else.
That's what they think.
The mindset.
You can.
And then I like. The same thing. You spent all these years going to school, trying to go to school. Why? To prove that you're an asset enough.
Yeah.
So when I did the SWAT interview, they were asking me in this big room with all the SWAT guys. It was my third time. Tell us why we should pick you. And I'm like, I've fucking been here for years. I've done everything you asked me to do. Like, I'm trying to better my career, just like you are, right? And then I get the response, yeah, we don't know you enough. We don't trust you yet.
No, yeah.
And I'm like, at the end of the day, I don't fucking work for you.
Yeah, exactly.
End of the day, I serve the people on the streets. And you denying me that opportunity is denying me money and benefits in the long run, because all these guys get out, they do businesses, they put on their former SWAT operator, blah, blah, blah. Right. So,
CQB,
so every time you deny me, you deny my opportunities, but you do it based on your own personal beliefs, the things that you're hearing, the false allegations against me, and all that is why that fucking job sucks.
Well, that just goes to show you that they don't put the best people in the best positions. That's the other fucking wild part of law enforcement, is when we can talk for another 2 hours about that the best guy is never put in the promoted. The best guy is never put in the best specialty position. It's all political. It's all who is who. So just like SWAT, when I made SWAT, I immediately became an outcast. I made the team, 42 years old, but I immediately realized that I didn't fit that mentality. Yeah. And it was when I made the comment, some of the SWAT guys got pissed. I made that comment that I like the old SWAT on your show, not the new SWAT. The old SWAT to me was more teamwork, more hard work.
I think the old organizations in general.
Yes. And then when I made this team, I started to see the guys in charge weren't training like everybody else. The guys in charge were overcritical of everybody else. And then it just became like there was a clique of guys that didn't have to do anything anybody else did. And you started, it became what used to be an elite unit that everybody was the same. Now the rank bullshit structure, bullshit admin was now infiltrating SWAT, and now there were cliques and ranks within the SWAT team that used to not be like that. Once you were one of the boys on SWAT, you were there. You were all the equal. You were all the same. And now that little cliquey fucking nonsense is within SWAT.
I'm the better SWAT guy.
Yeah, or I'm the exactly.
Listen,
yes.
When I got hired with Palm Bay in 2006, when I got hired, the recruiter told me that I needed to write an essay to the chief about tattoos I had. I had a tattoo that said MOB. I got in high school when I was 15. Obviously, I was underage. I got tattoos that said MOB, money over bitches. Oh. And then I had one on my right arm that I got from a movie called Baby Boy, which is a bad decision, but I was 15 years old. It said 187 from the movie Baby Boy, right? So I go and I get these tattoos covered up because they're stupid and, I regret them. Dumb decision, but it's life, right? Yeah. So the chief ends up, I apply for Palm Bay, and the recruiter tells me, hey, there's like an FBI bulletin on you. 2006. 2006. There's an FBI bulletin on you. And that's why agencies are all denying you, right? So I'm like, really? She's like, yeah. So she shares with me an interview she had with an FDLE agent who basically came to her and said, hey, she applied. She saw the background come through, and there was a note on my background through FDLE, basically saying do not hire clause. I wasn't even hired by anybody. I was just an academy recruit. Do not hire clause. I didn't know this. Every agency I went to, from Fort Lauderdale to Tampa, we're going to hire you, speak Arabic, we want you, right? First time getting a job, everybody's denying me every time. I'm like, damn, what the fuck's going on? I didn't know it was going to be this hard. So I go to Palm Bay, and they're like, yeah, we're going to hire you to do my everything. And then she calls me 3 days before my swearing. She goes, there's a problem. I go, hold on, I can explain. She's like, why didn't you tell me that? I was like, I didn't know. I thought it's over with. I don't know what the fuck is going on. I'm not privy to anything. I'm just being denied. She goes, well, the chief wants you to write him a letter and explain your tattoos, because apparently the FBI and FDLE have a do not hire clause on you. I'm like, how? How is that even possible? She's like, I don't know, but the chief wants an explanation. I said, I can explain. So I write this entire narrative about my tattoos and how I've been railroaded and fucking denied and never had opportunity. It was Chief Bill Berger. He's a U.S. Marshals director out of Tampa office now. Just old school organization, did his own decisions, didn't give a fuck about all that bullshit. So I go in there and I sit down, and she tells me, like, FBI is like telling the chief that you have terrorist ties, right? Like basically like you have terrorist ties, right? So I'm sitting there with her, and I'm like, okay. She's like, somebody's gonna come talk to you. She tells me this, right?
You get on planes? You allowed on planes?
Yeah,
dude. I'm not going to the airport with you ever.
I'm not gonna say her name because she still works, but she told me this guy's gonna come talk to you right now. He's the agency. He's a sergeant with the agency, but he's assigned to the FBI. But that's what I told you, right? When they're assigned,
yeah.
This guy comes in and he hands me a piece of paper and asks me to read it in Arabic. I'm like, okay. And she tells me before, don't read it to him. When he comes in, don't read it. He's trying to like talk to you, and he's working for the FBI, and he's the one that's pushing this agenda about you. I don't even know the guy.
So this guy tells you to read it. She tells you not to read it.
This sergeant, his name is Sergeant Brian Kerr. Everybody knows him. Like I said, he was a retard in terms of his decision making and his tactics and shit like that. He comes in and he hands me a piece of paper and he goes, Brian Kerr, read this for me. FBI, read this for me. And I'm like, yeah. I don't know what it says. It's like, oh, you don't know how to read Arabic? I was like, no. I basically like bullshit him.
You lied to a federal agent.
Yeah. So he's like, all right. So he starts like asking me questions about myself, and I remember her telling me not to talk to him. I'm just like, I'm just a new recruit getting the hiring process. Like, yes, sir. I mean, yeah, my parents are from Lebanon. They're from Beirut. I don't know anybody there. Like, I don't know what to tell you. He's like, okay. So he leaves and walks out, and she's like, yeah, he's pushing hard to not hire you. Like, I'm telling you right now, he's doing everything he can with the feds to not hire you. And I'm a new guy walking into this scenario, zero experience. And the chief takes my page written, and he takes it and he hires me. And he says that's a good enough reason, and this is bullshit, and he hires me. And I go in, but from that day that I walked into those doors, the odds were stacked against me for all the years that I was.
What was on the paper?
Basically, like, no, what was on the?
Well, what would it say?
It was like Quran verse.
But could you read it?
Yeah, I could read it. Yeah.
And what was her
America.
what was her reasoning for telling you? I mean, obviously you're lying to him. What was her reasoning for telling you not to do it?
She told me not to read it because she said they were trying to pull you into something or something like that. I don't know what it
They're
was.
Gonna fucking, next thing you know, you're gonna be on a fucking pamphlet or something reading this shit, and it's gonna be death to him. Well, you knew what it said though, so I mean,
it wasn't anything like crazy. I think he wanted to see whether or not I really spoke Arabic, and there's.
So you were under the gun.
Yeah. There's an FDLE
I wonder
agent.
if they even hired you just to investigate you.
There's an
Like,
there's
think
an
about that.
FDLE
The
agent.
FBI told them to hire you.
Yeah, so now we can have him on body cam and fucking driving around and see who he associates. Does he go meet with anybody? Does he use his leverage, his position? You might have been fucking hired just for that fucking reason, man.
Yeah, I've had, but I walk a straight line, man. My whole life has always been like that, and now and I'll say on the podcast, it is what it is, man. Humbly speaking, I make a lot of money right now, and I know that my background, I know that they're all over me. So everything I do, I just paid my taxes. I owed a shitload of taxes for the year because I made a lot of money. And the accountant's like,
you're gonna try to fuck with that.
Accountant's like, yeah, do you want? I was like,
don't
do everything by the book,
straight and narrow.
Yeah. Whatever I pay. And then people are like, oh, I didn't have to pay that much. I'm like, I don't give a fuck how much you had to pay. I'm paying everything.
Yeah.
Right. And it's not that I'm doing nothing wrong. It's just I'm just trying to live the American dream, man.
Yep.
And it's crazy to me that if you live the American dream, you can either be a criminal in this world and have problems, or you can live a good life and work hard and have problems.
Yeah.
And they treat me either way, whether I'm on the good side or not. They treat me like I'm a bad guy, all the way into my life now that I'm so not paranoid, but I'm so alert to things that are happening that when somebody walks up to me randomly goes, "Hey man, what's your name?" I'm like, "I'm not interested."
Yeah, I can imagine.
Hey man, do you want to buy some tools? I'm not interested, dude.
Yeah,
Fuck away from me. I'm not interested.
Fucking,
I buy my shit from Home Depot with a receipt. Stay away
there's
from
fucking
me.
C4 inside the fucking tools or something.
I don't
Bomb
want nothing
making material
from
or something.
Yeah, I'm not interested in
dude.
anything that you have. I buy my shit from the store. Hey man, I know this website has a good deal. I'm not interested.
Yeah.
I don't want nothing to do with it.
I
I trust nobody but my family.
And I feel that way too. After going through it, seeing it, I always have this like eerie feeling that, I mean, in this world, just a plan. I mean, we joke about it, but fuck, dude, I'm terrified half the time of the federal government. Like,
because they lie. That's the thing
are.
about it,
They
man.
are bad
Like,
people.
Do your job and do it right. I'm all for it. I'm all about protecting
They're
this
all about
country.
promotion, and they, they have to work an OSADEF. They have to work a wire to get promoted. They have to do all these things. So in these small towns like where I was from, they don't have that type of crime. Yeah. So I'm convinced that they.
And how many agents have went and become a cop, did their years as a cop, and then as good investigators become FBI agents.
Yeah.
I'm hearing a lot. I see a lot of them that just come out of college and they become FBI agents, and now they're tasked of doing anti-corruption.
Yeah, they have no idea what that
cops,
is.
And it's like you have no clue what you're talking about. Anti-corruption.
In a small town, I mean, you were close by, so we're just as equally small. Brevard's a little bigger, but once that gets a hold of you and follows you, you can't get rid of it. Over here, you could be Orange County, somewhere big. You can just disappear and nobody knows. In the small town where we were at, once that's on you, it's just like a sex allegation against you or something, or a rape allegation. You never. I don't care how innocent you are. Yeah. It never.
And they had a file. They had a file on me that got leaked to me by an officer who, and I'm never going to say his name, even if they tried, but he leaked it and said, "Hey, there's a file," and you called the X file that they had for you for years, that they were monitoring you on and watching your text messages and everything, but they couldn't find nothing on you. He told me that. And when I did a public records request asking for the X file, and to them in the FBI, they said there's nothing, doesn't exist. There's nothing on you. They literally said there's nothing on you. When I called the FBI after my polygraph exam, after all that went bad, I called that same agent and said, I want to know what the fuck is going on. And I need to know what's happening. I need to know who's accusing me of this shit, because I need to go after them. I need to find out who it is. I need to challenge them. He said, did you get in trouble by your agency? I said no. He said, have you been fired? I said no. He said, is there an IA?
Just forget about it.
He said, is there an IA? I said no. He goes, let it go.
Yeah.
Swear to God. Yeah. Let it go. I said, but why? He goes, Yousef, listen to me. FBI agent, listen to me. I go, he goes, it's over. It's done. I go, yeah, but you guys still think.
Not
I said, you
fucking
guys, you guys think that I did something wrong? He goes, it's done.
You
It's
destroyed
over.
my character. You destroyed my peers, what they think of me, the people you interviewed and asked
And all he said
questions
to me was, literally, I said, yeah, but you guys are going to keep fucking me. He goes, it's over.
Yeah.
Let it go. And I said, do I get anything in writing or something? He goes, no, it's over with. It's done. It's gone.
I never got the "it's over" conversation, but it always. And then they put a document out about me, and the state attorney's office got involved, saying, I'm not credible. It's all fucking bullshit, dude. Yeah. And it
but
literally,
even in my criminal case, the state attorney's office, they had thousands of papers on me from all. I worked for 4 agencies and in 12 years, and they challenged me. You work for 4 agencies, right? They didn't have a single write up. Yeah. Right, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm an asset." I speak
if
Arabic,
you move around in law enforcement, that's another thing. It's another.
You're flagged.
If you move around, yeah.
But it's no different than like the fucking NBA and shit. Like a player decides to leave to another team, right? He wants
great.
to go better
LeBron
in his
James
life.
has been on fucking 4 or 5 teams. He's great because he makes more money. But if you move around as a cop, you're a piece of shit.
You're a piece of shit, or they can fire you and not let you get hired, right? But so the state attorney's office brought that up about me bouncing. I looked at the jury and I said, "Yeah, I speak Arabic fluently. I have lots of training. I'm an asset. I can go wherever I want, and I choose whatever agency I want to go to."
But in this career field, that's the only another career that's you're negative because you move around. You're a piece of shit.
But my point also is that the state attorney didn't bring up nothing about FBI. They didn't bring up nothing to the jury about none of that because there's nothing there.
Of course.
But even if they were dying to, my attorney said they got to know something that we don't know. Somebody's in their background holding on to it. Yeah. And you know what's crazy is like the FDLE agent who was like the lead agent in charge. The first couple of days of my trial, he was sitting with the state attorney's office at their table, and he was like handing him stuff. Like he was working so hard on overtime to prosecute me. And I remember looking over at him thinking, wow, this is really is really what you're dedicated to. Yep. Is trying to bury me. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but I'm not going to trial. I'm saving my family from the drama and the news. But I'm watching this guy and I'm going, what a scum piece of shit. Yep. You're sitting there working. He's trying to help the state attorney prosecute me. And walking up to my attorney and during the breaks and going, "Hey man, how's it going, man? Did you see the golf tournament yesterday? You know, and he's talking. I'm sitting here. I'm going to myself, dude, get the fuck away from my table."
Yeah.
You know?
Oh God.
The brotherhood.
Brotherhood.
The brotherhood.
So if you're looking to become a career in law enforcement, hit me up. I got a couple.
Yeah,
we tips.
We're recruiting for agencies here.
You know, we are the real recruiters.
Yeah,
we'll help you get through your career.
Go
navigate.
Fucking get a trade job. Go learn how to weld. Go be a diesel mechanic. Go do something that fucking benefits you and your family, not this fucking miserable career.
Yeah, I applaud all the blue collar workers out there that are that make this, make our roads and our houses and shit.
Go get a trade.
Because let me tell you something, they look dirty and quiet, but you notice that they all have their cars and their houses paid
Miller
for.
time at 5 o'clock at 2, and it's fucking
they're
done.
all paid.
Nights and weekends off, holidays off. Yep. And you go get a trade somewhere. You learn the trade. You go get a business degree. Don't get a business degree. You open up your own business. You save your money. You keep your credit good. Trade. That's when you're making millions.
Go back to the motto of you want to make America great again. How many people are good people getting into law enforcement and just taking the mindset and just following. It's like the Colt. You said they're just lining up and it's like a machine that pumps them out. Just put another one in uniform.
Well, the problem,
but they have so much skill they can utilize out there and make so much money.
The problem now is the weakening of men. Men are weaker, and I fear when we talked about a mass don't show up to work, I feel the opposite. I feel these kids are so weak today.
They're so scared.
They're going to fall into that rank and file, and it may go the other way. They may amass enough army of fucking pussy ass cops to do some real fucking damage to people. Like it's scary to think these young kids will do anything they're fucking told.
And that's the thing about
anything
it.
They're fucking
and
told.
That's the thing when I heard a podcast. I don't know if it was yours or somebody else's I was listening to, and they were saying, what's it going to take for this stuff to turn?
Iron sights.
Term of the government and everything, right? And they're saying that people are just people would rather take their job over standing up. If all the cops said, we're not going to work tomorrow, or if the military member said, we're not going to war, like, you're not sending us somewhere, we're not going.
I don't think men are
like, if
strong
that
enough.
happened, where's the power going to be, right?
Yeah.
But it's never going to happen.
We're in that phase of weak men create weak times.
I've joked about it. Like, could you imagine, like, being the biggest law enforcement podcast ever and orchestrating a national blue flu? And I was like, the FBI would have me in cuffs fucking next day.
Yeah,
they would.
Orchestrating
They'd get you for some
domestic terrorism.
Some
inciting riot, inciting terrorists.
You'd be in there so fast.
Toasted.
It's definitely not even a fucking joke they would do.
And
then add me to the recipe, just like filming you.
Yeah.
Like
give us Yousef, you're good.
Yeah, we got him. You know, he was there filming you, right? The little timey. They'll take one episode.
It's actually his idea before we started recording.
Yeah, say it was Jesus' idea. You walk away.
You know, here I am again.
Yeah.
Fucking, you know.
Fuck, man.
Yeah.
We are Counterculture 8. How's everybody doing tonight? Wild, huh? Wild.